Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to all the people that have mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. I'm going to tell you a story about the worst Mother's Day. And believe me, this is bad. This is a bad Mother's Day. Let me give you some background first. And the story's got a happy ending. It does. Now, today I'm going to go spend the day with my mother, who is 81 years old. And we've had a much better relationship. We've had a great relationship over the last 18 and a half years. I've been clean and sober. I was a full-blown heroin and crack cocaine addict for 2 decades. Basically just a full-blown drug addict and alcoholic for the time, since the time I was in my teens till I was 40 years old. And my father died when I was 9 years old from terminal brain cancer. We lived in a park house, a state house. My father was the park ranger, the head park ranger, and we lived inside the park. It was a great life until he got brain cancer when I was 9 years old. When I was that age and I lost my father, I had no idea. I look back now and I look what my mother went through. She was only 31 years old when he died, and I was 9. My little sister was 3 years old. And I give her so much credit for being both the mother and the father. Not only did we lose my father, but as I said, the job that he had in the state park was, we had the house came along with the job. So after my father died, obviously, they'd have to get a new park ranger and put him in the house that we were living in. So not only did we lose our father, my mother's husband, but we lost our home. So I look back now and at what my mother did. She went back to school. She became a nurse's aide. She ended up working as a postal delivery person, a post lady. And she met her current husband in the post office. He was a postal delivery man himself, and I get along good with them. I'm going out to have lunch with them today. But the story wasn't always this good. Like I said, I've been clean and sober since October 23rd of 2006. Recovery is possible. I've been completely clean and sober for over 18 and a half years now. And I'm going to tell you about the worst Mother's Day was 2005, 19 years ago. 19 years ago today. And, around today. Because Mother's Day doesn't always fall on the same day. And let me give you a little more background on this. After my father died, my mother didn't date for a couple of years. And the first person she dated was a police officer, because we lived out in the woods. And the town police officer would drive through the park. There was always some, unscrupulous, questionable characters that would hang around state parks. So the town policeman would go through the area. And we got to know the policeman. And he was single. My mom started dating him. He was an all right guy. That didn't last for too long. He was a little younger than her. About a year later, she started dating. We lived right on the town line. She started dating a police officer from the other town. And I had a bad feeling about this guy from the very beginning. He was a decorated officer in the town that I graduated high school in. Loved in the town and everything. And I had a bad feeling about him. He was a big Irish cop. Tough guy. And he just buddied up to me. You hear the word grooming? I was groomed. I remember him giving me Playboy magazines when I was like 11 years old, 10, 11 years old. I'm a guy, here, let's be buddies. Don't tell your mom I gave you this. I remember him giving me a condom when I was really young. I had no use for it. But he was, looking back, I see he was just grooming me. He was trying to get a relationship, a trusting relationship between us. He ended up molesting me for up until the time I was 14 years old. Until I hit him with a baseball bat when I was 14 years old, and it stopped. He's dead now. This plays into the whole thing. Okay, so I became an addict. I'm not blaming it on that at all, but I was always curious. I was, believe it or not, I was always in the accelerated courses in school. But I was always very curious, and I started messing around with weed. I started messing around with cocaine, crack. I became addicted. I started selling. Then I had a couple of back injuries at work. I needed back surgeries, and I started taking OxyContin. I started selling the OxyContin to get coke and crack. And it just went down. It went even further downhill from there. I was a full-blown heroin addict through most of my 40s, and crack cocaine addict through most of my 40s. Now, I would go and get money. This is the embarrassing part. I would go get money from my family constantly, even when I was working. You know, I'd get my paycheck and I'd spend the entire paycheck. You know, I had my own place, my own car through my 30s and everything, but during the height of this addiction, I would spend my entire paycheck in one night smoking rock. And I'd make up some excuse. I got robbed. I got jumped. The police impounded my car. You know, all sorts of lies. I need dental work. I need an operation. You know, and I would go get money from my family. My mother was always there for me. The money that I borrowed from my mother would be enough to buy a house right now. It's got to be, you know, well over $500,000 million that I took from my family. Mother's Day, 2005. I was addicted to heroin, full blown. So I needed heroin as soon as I woke up. All right. And most holidays, I would prepare for this. I would, you know, if you know anything about heroin addiction, you know, heroin addicts have to get a supply. If you know you have to do something, go to court, a holiday the next day, you have to get a supply for the next day. So when you wake up, you might not be able to find your dealer. You have to go to your dealer every single day, several times a day. You know, he becomes your best friend. And a lot of times they're not around because they have mothers, they have Christmas too. So I try to get my supply beforehand. And being an addict, I would usually use up my whole supply. I would stay up all night using, and I would just barely have enough to squeak by to make it to dinner with my family on holidays. This Mother's Day, I did that, but I didn't have enough. And I woke up sick, 2005 Mother's Day. So I had about $20 left on me, and I went to look for my dealer. I couldn't find my dealer. Now, this is a part of the story that only addicts will probably understand. I needed to get heroin so I wouldn't be dope sick. If I got cocaine, it would make me more sick. That's how it goes. Like that drug will push the remaining opiates off the brain receptors. If I do cocaine, it would make me twice as sick. Right? So I went looking for heroin that morning. I couldn't find my dealer. I had $20 on me. And this is the thing. This happened time and time again. And I knew that if I bought anything else, it would just make it worse. But I could not go home with that money. I had to buy crack cocaine. And I did. And as soon as I did it, I threw up. I got twice as sick, shaking, throwing up, all sorts of stuff. That's how bad the addiction was. You know, I knew doing that was going to make me sick. It was going to make me feel twice as bad. But I had to do it. I could not go home with that money. Since that dealer was available, the cocaine dealer was available, I went and got it. I ended up in a bar, a little sleazy dive bar that would open up at like 9 in the morning. Mostly alcoholics in my town. And I was sitting there plotting, trying to get money. My family was meeting at 11 o'clock that morning to go to 11:30 to go to an early lunch for Mother's Day. So I'm trying to figure out how to get some money to get unsick so I can make it to meet my family. And I remember sitting in that bar, and I'd go up to one alcoholic or another alcoholic, and just to buy, I didn't have any money, and I'd bum drinks from these guys. These guys are already the lowest of the low, homeless bums, as most people would call them. And I'm bumming money off them. I'm sick. I got throw up all over the front of my shirt. I stink. I haven't slept. I'm shaking. And I'm bumming money from them just to get another drink. Just trying to figure out how I can get some money to call up my dealer so I can make it the next hour to meet my family. I didn't make it. I remember the clock just ticking. And it got to 11 o'clock, 11:30, and I knew my family was at the restaurant right then. And I'm sitting in this dive bar, dope sick. Throw up all over the front of my shirt. No idea. There's no way I could go meet him. Like, no way I could. I couldn't eat anything. I'd throw up as soon as I took a bite. There was no way I could even drive to get there. So I had to get the dope, and I couldn't get it. I ended up getting a little more money. I missed the lunch. I just kept watching that clock on the wall in that dive bar. 12 o'clock. They're eating now. 1 o'clock. They're having dessert. 2 o'clock. They're leaving to go home. I get in my car, and I still need my drugs for the day because I'm just getting sicker and sicker still. Even sicker. More throwing up. So I drive to my parents' house, my mother and my stepfather. And I feel so guilty. I just didn't show up for Mother's Day. They didn't know where I was. I just knew I was a no-show. They already had a good idea that I had a drug problem. And I just spit this out. So I felt so guilty about, not showing up for Mother's Day that I just spit this out. My mother didn't know about the abuse. She never knew about it. This guy was such a, this policeman before that she dated years before that I beat with a baseball bat. She knew I hated him, but she didn't know why. He was such a manipulator, such a liar. Nobody would have ever imagined what he was doing to me, what he was doing to other boys. I remember him giving me a Playboy magazine, and a Polaroid fell out once I looked at it, and it had a Polaroid of another boy on his bed. No clothes on. So it wasn't just me. So I get to my mother's house, and I end up just spitting out. Remember so-and-so? Your ex-boyfriend? This is what he did to me. I remember saying it to her right at the front door. Just spitting it out. He did some stuff to me. And she was just in shock. This was Mother's Day. The reason I did this, like I said, is because I think I felt so guilty about being dope sick and not making it to lunch with my family that looking back, I made it 100 times worse by telling her on that day. But I wanted to take the guilt away from me for not showing up, I guess. So I just or try to put it back in her court, like it's her fault because she dated this guy. I was a terrible person. Long story short, I went home. I don't remember what happened from there. I knew I needed help. I was in and out of detoxes over 13, 14 times. Rehabs, detoxes, until it finally stuck. And I still remember this one trip to a detox. And, of course, we would be assigned to a doctor. The doctor would talk to us. We'd have meetings with the doctor when I was in rehab detox. And I remember this doctor asking me, he was an Indian doctor. And he asked me, he says, Gerald, because he knew I'd been in and out of detoxes and rehabs like 13 times. He says, why do you even want to get clean? Do you even want to get clean, and why? Why? What do you want? What do you want from it? Do you even want it? Because he told me that in that last trip, he told me, he says, Daryl, this isn't working. We're not going to take you back next time. Because I would go to the hospital when I ran out of money, when people were looking for me, and I would just go into rehab or detox 13, 14 times. And the doctor told me this one of these last times. He says, it's obviously not working, Daryl. You keep coming back here 3 months later. Either we're going to do something else, or we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to take you in here anymore. And that scared me. And I remember the first thing that came out of my mouth, why I want to get clean. So I want to spend clean time with my mother while she's still on this earth. And I started crying. And it just came out of me. That was the truth. That was something I'm getting goosebumps. That was something I didn't make up. I just spit that out. I need to have a relationship with my mother. Clean. While she's still here on this earth. That was the biggest reason that I wanted to get clean, that I needed to get clean. On October 23rd, 2006 was the last time I ever used any drugs. I had a relapse on that day. I've been clean and sober since. The relationship with my mother is fantastic. My mother is 81 years old. You know, she hates cell phones. She hates the computer. But I text her. My sister bought her a cell phone, but she wouldn't use it. So I text her every morning, every single morning. I'll text her another couple. I text her exactly 6:30 a.m. when she wakes up every morning. Since she got the cell phone about 3-4 years ago. And it's a relation, you know, it's just part of our relationship now, you know, and I just tell her what I'm doing for the day, how my day was yesterday. It's just a little paragraph. I text her every single morning. I make sure we go out and get a coffee, go out to McDonald's at least once a week. She loves McDonald's. You know, we sit in Dunkin' Donuts and we'll talk for 2 or 3 hours, you know, about the days when my dad was alive, the days I was using. You know, I share everything with her now. And bless her heart, she's forgiven me. You know, I told her the truth about everything. It's all out on the table. And we have a fantastic relationship now. You know, and I see her as much as I can. Even, you know, I don't want to interfere in her life, and I don't want to become a mama's boy, but I just want to spend as much time, as much quality time with this woman I love more than anything in the world, you know, while she's still here. And hopefully try to make up a little bit for who I was back then. I'm meeting her today. I'm texting her in a few hours at 6:30, and I'm meeting her at my sister's house for pizza today. And I love my mother. I love my mother more than anything in this world. She's always stuck by me, you know, despite me bumping thousands and thousands of dollars, and despite me, you know, ruining that Mother's Day 2005. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. And tell your mother you love them while you still can. If your mother's already moved on from this world, I'm sorry. But happy Mother's Day to everybody.